I want to begin with a clip of Franklin Graham praising Donald Trump for his Easter piety.
For your leadership in standing tall, standing firm. There's been a spiritual drought in this city the last few years and in this house. And so I'm very grateful for the Easter declaration that you put us. Thank you. Let us pray.
Right, so there's Franklin Graham talking about how during the Biden administration there was a spiritual drought, but now with the new Trump administration, once again the warming rays of God's divine favor are shining upon Washington, D.C. because of Trump's devotion and piety and his concern for the atoning death and triumphal resurrection of Jesus. That's the delusional nonsense that is coming from Franklin Graham. As I pointed out in my last video, if you want to see true Easter piety, you don't see it because people talk about the importance of commemorating the death and resurrection of Jesus. True Easter piety is found in how you treat the least of these among us. And Donald Trump and his administration have a long history of demonizing and attacking the least of these among us. Of course, he got elected both times by repeatedly scapegoating and othering immigrants, migrants. In his first term in office, he had a policy of separating children from their parents when they would come as migrants across the southern border. And that was a type of terrorism, attempt to terrorize them. And it was a violation of international law and human rights. Imagine separating a 6-month-old from their parents as a means to terrorize people and deter them from claiming a refugee status on the southern border. And many of those children that were separated in the first Trump administration were never reunited with their parents. Try to get that into your head. Try to imagine what that would be like. When my daughter was about 3, 4 years old, went missing for about an hour. We couldn't find her. It was actually the police who found her. And that was the longest hour of my life. The pain, the fear, the anguish was unimaginable. In the first Trump administration, the United States government, as a policy, separated parents from their children, people who were claiming refugee status. And many of them have never been reunited. I can't imagine what that would be like. In the current Trump administration, well, actually, before I get there, let me just note as well, during this last election, again, Trump repeatedly otherized and attacked migrants and immigrants. You remember back in October of 2024, where he attacked a group of legal Haitian migrants who were living in the United States, working in the United States, by claiming they were eating dogs and cats. Utter lie, an utter lie. But because of that, the town where those Haitian migrants lived had bomb threats. They had to close down schools. They were attacked. These people were spit upon. People were spreading vile rumors, hate about them online, all because this foul mouth Trump attacked them and Vance attacked them and stirred up and instigated hate against them. In the current Trump administration, now that they're back in power, uh, Elon Musk's Doge has been shutting down U.S. aid, USAID support for children. And as The Atlantic posted just this week, take a look at this headline. In 3 months, half of them will be dead. Elon Musk promised to preserve life-saving aid to foreign children. Then the Trump administration quietly canceled it. By the way, they're doing the same thing for drugs, for people around the world who have AIDS. And those drugs are helping them to live. the Trump administration has canceled support for those drugs, those people will die. I saw this cartoon this week, and while hard hitting, I think it tells an important truth. All lives matter. Now stay the hell out of my country. That is the attitude of these MAGA Trump supporters, reflecting their dear leader who has been othering and attacking, dehumanizing, objectifying, demonizing the most vulnerable among us. And you want to praise this man for quote unquote celebrating Easter? That is the moral abasement of contemporary evangelicalism with people like Franklin Graham, who will treat and be silent as Trump treats the most vulnerable people in the population as garbage, dehumanizing them in the case of Garcia, sending them to an El Salvador prison without any hearing, admitting it's a mistake, and then mocking the Supreme Court and refusing to do anything about it. To be honest, my main point here wasn't to simply talk about how Trump is treating the least of these in society and how that is a desecration of Easter piety. I have addressed that before in my previous video, which I've linked below. I actually wanted to focus more in this video on how they are attacking the public university and what that also says about evangelical support for Donald Trump. So you probably heard about how Trump has been attacking Harvard University in particular, just as they were previously attacking Columbia University, and as they also tried to attack Georgetown University in February. I previously made a video about that. And Georgetown is a Catholic university, and the Trump administration tried to bully them into giving up their DEI, quote unquote DEI training on campus. But I just want to take a quick look at the attack on Harvard and consider what that says about fascism and what that says about evangelical Christianity and their egregious hypocrisy in supporting this monstrous man and his administration. This is the letter that the United States Trump's government sent to Harvard University just a few days ago, about a week ago. And in this, they give a long list of demands that they want to see, the United States government wants to see in a private educational institution. They're demanding these changes be made, or they will revoke government support. And it's ultimately, as we're going to see in a moment, even tax exempt status. So they're demanding leadership reforms that the Trump government approves. They're demanding a new shift to what they are calling merit-based hiring reform, merit-based admissions reform, international admissions reform, viewpoint diversity in admissions and hiring. This is perhaps one of the most Orwellian demands here, with this idea that they are trying to control the curriculum and control the representation of voices and which voices are represented among faculty and expressed in the curriculum of the school itself. And then they go on, they want to see reforming programs addressing anti-Semitism, and I'm going to come back to that in a moment. And then the discontinuation of DEI, quote unquote, student discipline reform and accountability, and it goes on. Whistleblower transparency and monitoring. All of this, they are demanding from Harvard University. Now, it is important to understand fascists, one of the first things that fascists do is they seek to censor and control education and curriculum. Nazis infamously burned books. They eliminated progressive, what were considered at the time progressive educational policies and practices. It's the same thing that we're seeing here. Fascists seek to create propaganda and indoctrinate the population, and that requires the control of educational institutions. Once again, what they're trying to do with Harvard here. Fascists seek to suppress academic freedom. Again, what they're doing here by attacking the school and attacking professors. And they're seeking to continue to target minority groups, to rewrite history. This is a classic fascist tactic. And by going after Harvard University, they are trying to terrorize other schools into complicity with the Trump government as well. Harvard University has refused to bow, and the United States, Trump's government, as a result, is threatening to remove $2 billion in funding. Now, just keep in mind, Harvard University is arguably the leading academic institution in the world, certainly, I think, in the United States. And also, it's not a quote unquote elitist institution. I think approximately two-thirds of students at Harvard University come from the public school system, and the majority of Harvard students are on full scholarships because many of them cannot afford to pay $90,000 a year in tuition. Harvard is an academic bastion of freedom. It is not some simple elitist institution. So Trump is threatening to remove $2 billion in funding. And in this report, as in The Guardian here, they are now threatening to remove their tax exempt status. I mean, this is fascism 101. Now, sort of the main catalyst Trump is claiming to motivate this is they're concerned about anti-Semitism on campus and that Harvard is not dealing adequately with anti-Semitism. I mean, that has nothing to do, of course, with things like controlling their curriculum, removing the quote unquote DEI policies. It's all a pretense for control. And some of the egregious hypocrisy about this, I mean, Donald Trump, he's close friends with Kanye West, who has repeatedly praised Adolf Hitler. In November of 2022, Trump had dinner with Kanye West and Nick Fuentes, a white supremacist Holocaust denier, and Trump never apologized for having dinner with these two people. He claimed after the fact, well, I didn't know who Nick Fuentes was. Pardon me, that is a complete lie. I mean, you could call it bullshit. Um, you want to tell me he doesn't know who Nick Fuentes is? Complete lie. Um, Trump, when he was praised by David Duke, a grand wizard of the KKK, he claimed that he didn't know who David Duke was, and he refused to reject David Duke's endorsement of him in the 2016 election. And yet there was evidence that Trump had known who David Duke was for 30 years. He always plays this game. And when it comes to Nick Fuentes, um, it is completely absurd that Trump would have somebody for dinner at Mar-a-Lago, as he did with Nick Fuentes, and not know who the man was. Ridiculous. But another way to know that this claim that anti-Semitism is some big concern for Trump is a complete lie is that this week, Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, his house was set on fire by an anti-Semite who was attacking him. And Trump has said nothing to denounce during Passover a Jewish politician whose house is broken into, and the man attempts to kill him, said he had a hammer, and if he had found Shapiro, he would have tried to kill him with the hammer. Trump has said nothing to denounce that. It is a complete absurdity to claim he cares about anti-Semitism. It is a pretense to control public universities. Now, finally, what does that have to do with evangelicals and to bring it back to people like Franklin Graham? Well, just imagine if Donald Trump was targeting Liberty University or Baylor University, one of these bastions of evangelical education. What if he said to Liberty University and to Baylor University, I'm concerned with the way you understand Jesus to be the Messiah, that might be anti-Semitic. And so I want to control your education within Baylor and Liberty University. And if you don't allow our government to control how you teach your students, the kind of curriculum you offer, then we will remove your tax exempt status. We will remove government funding. Can you imagine how evangelicals would feel about that? They would be horrified and outraged. They would believe that this was the end of the world and that Trump was the Antichrist and the beast because he was attacking their public educational systems. But if he seeks to attack other schools and control their education, the evangelicals are silent. They think that that's just fine. Franklin Graham praises Trump this week for his comments on Easter, even as he is seeking to undermine, dismantle, and destroy independent private educational institutions. As long as it's not Liberty University or Baylor University, they're fine. What that tells to me is there's a privilege among evangelicals who support Donald Trump that they think as long as their group is not attacked and their educational systems and institutions are not attacked, they're fine with attacking and dismantling Harvard University or Columbia University, but just don't attack Liberty University or Baylor University. That is the hypocrisy, the entitlement, and I think the nascent Christian nationalist impulse that is mainstream in evangelical Christianity in America, because they think they have the privilege, that they should be supported by the government. I think that they would want to see, they would be happy to see Trump shut down public universities, liberal universities, bastions of DEI, and then support and channel all that money into supporting Baylor University and Liberty University and other evangelical institutions. This is a dark time, and I'm speaking about this on Good Friday, but Easter is coming, resurrection is coming. The thing is that God has called Christians in dark times and in dark places to stand up for truth, not to be culture compromisers. And in this moment, remaining silent when the Trump administration attacks immigrants and migrants and seeks to shut down public institutions and control them for nefarious fascist ends, that is being a culture compromiser. It is time to stand up and to make your voice heard and to denounce this government and the evangelicals who continue to support and empower it.